Do you want to upgrade your ADHD? Wait, what? You can upgrade it? Do you have ADHD? Do you feel calm? Do you feel in charge of your life? I'm so awesome. If not, you are not alone. Having ADHD can be like standing on top of a snowy hill in the wintertime. I like my nerves, bones, and muscles just the way they are, so yeah, I'm not going sledding. But well-meaning parents and community in our youth were more than willing to take us up on top of that hill. It's just a winter ritual that seems like a good idea, or maybe the worst idea ever. But here you go. Let's get a slick surface, put you on something that has no steering and no brakes, and have fun. If you're at this point in life and you're watching this video, well, you actually do have a choice. You can either ride the standard plastic saucer down the slippery hill of life, or you can choose a different thing to ride. May I suggest, if snow is involved, a snowmobile. It's your choice. That seems to have a little bit more power and a little bit more control than just a little plastic saucer. But okay, cool. So what are we even talking about here today? So like any trait, ADHD does not operate at full capacity right out of the box. Yes, we're talking about upgrades. We're talking about making modifications. So in order to do that, it takes some time and observation and intention to get the most out of what your out-of-the-box ADHD reset programming comes with. The default setting is the plastic sled, but our best life doesn't seem to come out of the box, does it? I mean, it's built by us, and what we do is ultimately up to us. We have ADHD, and you are not feeling like you are getting the most contentment, peace, and sustainability out of your life. Maybe time, for an upgrade. And so, Rob, where do I find these upgrades? Well, great question. You start by understanding and accepting how you feel right now without passing any judgment about it. So we seem to get so focused on I'm happy, I'm stressed, I'm content. Evaluate how you are feeling in general in your life, but try to eliminate any sort of emotional judgment that is being passed on that. At this point, we are just trying to get facts. Where am I? And then once you understand where you are, then we can start backfilling in how emotions play into this. If you are where you want to be, really, you can feel good about that, and no changes are necessary. But if you are not feeling like you're getting the most out of life, if you're operating on all cylinders, feel like you have a calm, sustainable present, well, then maybe it's time to make a little bit of a change. Don't label things as good or bad. We kind of are what we are. And that is the best way to evaluate where you really are. Because when you are passing judgment about where you currently are, you're almost kind of already starting to try to solve that. So what we need to do is calmly understand where we are. Humans complicate the shit out of life by over-defining things. Instead of over-defining things, just basic. Am I calm? Am I stressed? Are there things I can do about this that are different or not? The answer to the most questions that type are, yeah, there is something you can do. You just have to understand what your situation is. We're short on dopamine, we're short on concentration. So we want to feel better and we want to get this over with. That is why a lot of times we start solving problems before we have all of the information. How do we change this? You can actually install a pause patch. Our brain wants that expected payoff. We also want to predict that if we don't get started on whatever this problem that needs solving, if we don't get started on it right now, maybe we're going to forget something, and maybe we don't start it now, maybe we'll just never do it. These are very common short-term ADHD thoughts that tend to get us inspired to action before we're quite ready. That is why installing a pause patch helps you to stop and identify exactly what you're doing. How does this work? I literally say the word pause to myself. The other word that I'll say to myself is misfire. So if I notice that I'm starting to act before I have all the information, I just say misfire or pause. But what that does is that is you actively doing something that tells your brain that you have intention. But what it also does is it slows it down so that you are not in such a big hurry that you end up trying to solve a problem that's maybe not even the problem that is in front of you. Does that ever happen with ADHD? Do we ever create our own problems while we're trying to solve a problem? All the time. And that is why I think installing this pause patch is one of the most important things that I've done that has helped me understand and upgrade my ADHD. Once you have installed the pause patch, this actually gives you the space to properly evaluate what your situation is. Now you notice I said space, not time. Those of us with ADHD, time and space get a little filled with, but space seems to be important. If we feel like we are in a comfortable space, we can take care of situations regardless of the time. Honestly, you got to set that boundary. If you don't feel like you've got the time to do things, well, you got to take that power back. You need to install that patch for yourself, because if you don't have time to think about stuff, then you're never going to be able to upgrade things. And again, I know this. I spent my whole life in the glorification of busy to the point where I never had time to actually think about what I was doing and how I could improve my situation, how I could upgrade from plastic sled to snowmobile. In fact, I was so busy busy. I didn't even have time to figure out that I had ADHD. So installing that pause patch to give yourself a safe space to evaluate is key. That's number one. Now that you've got time and you've got time to think about it, now what do? Well, first of all, we need to be aware. We need to recognize what we are doing. Once we have recognition, if we feel like we are where we want to be, great. If we're not, okay, then we need to do an action. So you've installed your pause patch and now you understand your situation. Now, if you ask yourself the question, is this how I want my life to be and is this sustainable? If your answer to that question is anything other than a resounding hell yeah, then I think that's time for a change. How do we upgrade our ADHD in this situation? Step one, give yourself compassion for what you did while you were learning. The things that you've done in the past, don't assign it was good, it was bad. It's not a good guy versus bad guy type of analogy. And make a conscious decision to stick with the new direction you are wanting to take in your life, like no matter what obstacles come your way. So that is something that you need to do with intention if you want to get different results. Really, at the end of the day, if you want things to be different, you gotta do different things. Sounds a little too simple to be true, but like it just is. I know that you can do this. Hell, if I can do this, you can do this. I mean, there has never in the history of the world been somebody more stubborn than this guy. Please put it in the comments. Tell us how you got there. If you still kind of feel like most of the times you're riding a plastic saucer, I would put that in the comment. While you're there, may as well like and subscribe and tell other people about this, because the whole point of all this is to help all of us help each other understand who we are and how our brains function and how we can get the most out of life.